Hi everybody, welcome to Leading for Life Stories Season 2. My name is Bob Judson and I'm your host for this podcast, and I'm absolutely delighted to have you here joining me. Thanks very much, and I really hope you enjoy what follows. Welcome back everybody. So this week I thought I'd talk about motivation for a variety of reasons that I'll come back to, but talking about personal motivation and also team motivation. Since we often talk about leadership on this, I think being a leader, it's really important to think about how do you motivate both sides of that. How do you motivate yourself, particularly when you're not feeling perhaps at your best, and how do you motivate your team and continue to motivate your team to achieve the best they can be and be the best they can be on a regular basis? And how do you get them to help you when you're struggling a little bit for motivation? How do you get to that point? And so I think it's a useful topic for a thematic episode of this, and I'm hoping that after this episode I'm going to be returning back pretty quickly to some more guest episodes, because I've been absent a few of those recently. Well, it's summer holiday type period. But on the subject of motivation, my reason for being motivated this morning to do this is that unusually I've been really busy this week, and I'm still suffering with an IT challenge in terms of my main computer not being available. So I now have an hour and 10 minutes to record, edit, and publish this podcast in order to hit my 12 p.m. Sunday release date, which I've successfully managed to hit every time for the last year, and therefore I really don't want to break that. So that's my motivation today. And I think part of my approach to what I do is as I am very often motivated most when I have tight deadlines. That's really what works for me. I know some people hate that. Some people like to be in a position where, they've got everything out the way early. Some job comes in, they get it done as soon as they can, and then it's out the way. I'm the opposite of that. I tend to, if I've got a long deadline ahead of me, that's way out in the future, I'm dreadful for letting it run, and then suddenly getting to the point where I've really got to do it now. And I'm not advocating that at all as an approach. I just think different people do things in different ways. And it's worth thinking about that, not least in the context of how your team work. If you do set someone a long deadline and they're the sort of person that's like me, then they're probably not going to do it until very close to the deadline. Equally, if you set someone a very short deadline and they get really stressed by short deadlines, then that can put them under an enormous amount of pressure and make life very difficult. So being aware of your people and yourself in this context, I think, is pretty important. But being personally motivated is vital. And I think, if I look at it through a different lens for a second, just in the context of finishing work, finishing a job, and towards when you get towards my kind of age, and you're looking at retirement rather than what's the next job, then actually having a purpose, having a motivation for doing what you do is vitally important, and it's very, very important for your health. I'm completely convinced of that. I think if you allow yourself to just basically stop doing everything, I do not think that's good for you. I think it's not good for you mentally. It's not good for you physically, because your body just effectively goes into, right, well, I don't need to do anything else now, and starts shutting down on you. So I think that, having that level of motivation, right through your life is really key, and making sure you're doing things that you enjoy and keep you interested in what you're doing and happy in what you're doing. And that's really key. I mean, obviously you don't want to be in a position where you're doing stuff you're not enjoying, and if you possibly can, for at least if you have to have that, then do it for the most limited amount of time possible. But how do you get to that point? And I think I try very hard to always look on the positive side of stuff. I'm looking at, right, where does I'm innately an optimist for sure. I'm innately enthusiastic about things I do, and I do tend to be a bit sort of flighty. I'll pick up something and then I potentially will stop doing it for after a while. I'll kind of get bored with it and I'll move to something else, which is obviously not necessarily a great habit either. Particularly when you have some hobbies that are expensive and you turn around and pick them up and then drop them and pick them up again sometime later. But the that is again, I think, human nature. I think different people are different, and understanding how that works is important as well from a team leadership point of view. But for me, it's definitely about, right, knowing what's the end goal, understanding what the end goal is that I'm trying to achieve, and then having a set of steps that I can see along the way to make that reality. I don't like being in a position where I just don't see the value of the task. If I don't see the value of the task and I don't understand the value of the task, I am much, much less personally motivated to do that. And I think you can reasonably expect that people that work for you are going to be the same. You know, they need to know, why are they doing this? What's the net benefit? If it's utterly pointless and it's just because I said so, then that's not a great motivator. It's not a great leadership style to put on them. So I think you need to think about, how do I explain this in ways that are actually going to make it feel valuable to the people that I'm asking to do it. And, you know, look yourself in the mirror at this point as well. And if you're turning around and trying to justify it to yourself, then probably it's going to be pretty hard to justify to other people. And so at that point, you need to question and you need to challenge and see, right, do I actually need to do this, you know, either in this timeline or in this way or even at all? If it's not a thing that is ultimately going to deliver value and be relevant, you know, is it something you should just turn around and go, do you know what? Actually, I don't think we should do that. I think we should take a different path. I think we should take a different timeline. We should do something completely different in the way we approach this, because you know, you don't want to waste your time. You don't want to waste your people's time. You don't want to waste money, you know, doing things unnecessarily, and you know, certainly not if it's demotivating for you or the team. I think that's a definite negative. So think hard about that. Obviously, some people are quite seasonally affected by things. You know, if the weather's lovely and it's you know, a nice day and it's light in the morning and light in the evening, then that affects people's mood quite differently sometimes, and people are affected by that. So again, being aware of that is important, and being conscious that you know, getting the best out of your people needs the right environment, it needs the right kind of conditions. So try and find those, and for yourself and for your team, where you possibly can, to, you know, to get yourself in the right place. Don't put yourself in a position where you know that you're not actually going to achieve your best results for whatever reason, because you've just not set the conditions for success in the right kind of way. And if you know things that boost your mood and make you feel better about yourself and, you know, put you in the right frame, then think about how you actually implement those into your daily routine. If that's an exercise thing that actually you feel really good about, you know, you've gone and done some exercise first thing in the morning and now you're feeling better, set up for the day. If it's that you just had 3 cups of coffee before you start, whatever it happens to be that works for you, then do that. You know, because you need to be, you know, in giving yourself your best chance to be the best you can be, and also then that translates to the team. If you are buoyant and upbeat and motivated right from the beginning of any given day, then the chances are that will translate quite readily to your team in a very positive way. So you definitely want to think about how you how you do that most effectively and make that stick. Equally, when you are really at the opposite end of that spectrum and you're feeling very down and defeated a bit by things, then how do you get yourself out of that rut? How do you drag yourself back to a place that is more positive? And I think that comes down, for me at least, that comes down to looking back at and picking up memories and thoughts of things that do work for me, that do actually, you know, help me to be positive and give me a more positive frame of reference, that, you know, is then going to enable me to slowly, perhaps, but, you know, or hopefully not too slowly, drag myself back up to a better, better mindset, a better frame, where I'm consciously thinking, okay, I am now in the right mode. I don't do it anymore, but I used to do a lot of running. And that was great, because at the time I was doing it, you know, it was tiring, obviously, particularly doing distance running. But you get to the end of a long run and actually, you know, an hour or two later, you did feel amazing. It was really, really good. These days, I do the same thing a bit with cold showers, bizarrely, which, if you've never tried it, try it. It's a really great way of you know, boosting your energy levels and making you feel amazing. It might not feel amazing while you're under the shower, and do it incrementally. If you do it, start with sort of 15 seconds and time it, because if you don't time it, you'll never stay the course in terms of actually doing the time. So have a timer that you can do that, on your watch or something that sets you and gives you 15 seconds, and then gradually build it to 15 to 30 seconds to 45 seconds, etc. And I can get up. I normally do 2 minutes. I don't go for more than that. And actually that is superb. It really helps in terms of just kickstarting you to get you to a place where you're feeling more, more upbeat about things, listening to things that are putting you again in the right mood. If you're in any way transiting to where you work or whatever, do stuff and listen to stuff and read stuff that is positive if you possibly can. So you're lifting your mood. You're putting yourself in the space where you are likely to feel more motivated to actually go and do something, rather than actually being doing the opposite, listening to stuff that kind of puts you in a downbeat mood, more depressing, more difficult, and demotivates you. Because if you do that, then of course that affects everything else you do as well, and it makes it hard to break out of that cycle. Regular breaks as well. If you're doing something that is difficult, demanding, requires a lot of kind of motivational energy to make it work, then think about, how do I do that in a way that is going to step myself up. So don't try and do 8 hours straight of writing a major paper that you need to write. Definitely think about, how and when am I going to take my breaks? What am I going to do in those breaks? How am I going to kick my energy level back up again? And again, that can be everything from a walk out in the fresh air to going out with the take a stroll out with the dog, take a have a can of Red Bull, whatever it happens to be, whatever works for you, that actually is going to put you in the right frame of mind. But the change bit is important. Change is as good as the rest, and the same thing again applies to your team. So don't try and expect for them to work consistently very long hours on individual pieces of work without any kind of respite. And there has to be some kind of carrot that goes along with with that. You have to have a reward mechanism at the end that makes people feel motivated, feel positive. And that doesn't necessarily mean monetary reward or time off or whatever. It can easily be that, actually it's just the success of what you've done and shared success in the outcome of what you've had. I don't think ever underestimate the value of, genuinely sharing the positivity and success that, that comes from what the team overall has achieved, or even other teams in the organization. I mean, interestingly, I'm recording this obviously on the 11th of August. It's the very last day of the Paris Olympic Games, and I love the Olympics. I've watched a lot of it, over the time it's been on over the last couple of weeks, and I think that in itself is just a tremendous kind of motivator for me. I mean, it's a feel good thing. You watch these incredible people doing incredible things, some of which are just mind blowing in terms of the skill level they attain in terms of what they do. And I do find that very uplifting. I find that is a very kind of positive thing to watch. Whereas by contrast, I mean, the news of late, not least in the UK, I mean, the news has been pretty bleak with lots of challenging situations, and that's the opposite. So try again to think about, right, what am I paying attention to when, and how is that actually going to affect my mood, my frame of mind, and therefore how I actually deliver everything I'm going to do. Write task lists is another thing that works for me. I do have lists. If I don't have things on a list, by and large, they definitely don't get done. Sometimes even if they are on the list, they don't get done quickly enough. And making sure you are clear about what is the priority and how are you actually going to do it. I have some very simple jobs around the house kind of things that I should have done ages ago that I just haven't got around to, because I just haven't kind of kicked myself into being in the right space to get on and do it. And what I tend to find is I do those in batches. I'll suddenly turn around and go, right, I'll have a couple of days of, I'll go and do a whole load of different things, all of which individually I could have done in 10 minutes each. And I just haven't done it. And there's no rhyme or reason for why I haven't done it. I just haven't. And so I try very hard to make sure that when I do knuckle down and get on with it, I do as many of those kind of things as I can do in a single go. And again, I think I just personally find that helps me. ultimately what works for you that is important here. Team members individually and your own mood individually can make a real difference to the way the team dynamic works. And being conscious of that as a leader, I think, is again important. If you have a member of your team who is consistently downbeat, always glass empty, and always very negative, you need to think about, how do I actually get that individual into a different space so they don't corrupt and corrode the team from within? Because it is quite corrosive. If you've got someone who is incessantly a naysayer and always negative about everything, even if they're capable, actually it's bad news, I think, in my experience. I think you want people who are, by and large, at least reasonably positive or at least neutral. If you have people who are too negative, it is hard. You want some challenge. You don't want people who are positive to the point that they just go and pursue everything without any thought or reasoned consideration of what they're being asked to do. You want people definitely to think about it and to offer constructive challenge. But if they're just negatively challenging all the time and negatively challenging and not performing, then again you need to take steps to help get them to a different space individually and get them to understand what they need to do to actually be a more valued member of the team. And ultimately, if you can't do that, then you do sometimes have to take some tough decisions around individuals in the team and find different roles for people to do something else and or ultimately manage them out of the team completely, because you don't want rotten apples in the barrel. You don't want want individuals who over time can be very corrosive to the overall output of what you're trying to achieve. But being in the same breath conscious of, sometimes you have high performers who are for whatever reason not performing as they would normally perform, not as motivated as they would normally be, then how do you get them back to the right space? First thing is to recognize that is an issue. And again, knowing your people is key in that. I think you need to be in a position where you can definitely say with some confidence that this individual is not the way they normally are. And then appropriately, delicately trying to find out why, what has happened, what is it? Is it just that something has gone on in their work life or their personal life that is making them feel a bit downbeat at the moment? And if that's the case, then how do you change it? How do you, is it a question of just giving them, an opportunity to talk it out with somebody? Is it they need to do something different? Is it they need a break because actually they're approaching a burnout stage? Those sorts of things are the things that you, from a leadership point of view, need to be considering around the people in your team. And you need to also create the conditions, and I've said this before on these podcasts, that you need to create the conditions your team can say that to you too. Because they may well spot things in you that you, in some ways, haven't spotted yourself. It depends how good you are on the self-awareness front about your own mood, your own capability. Some people are very good at that and can tell when they're fractious, tired, needing to do something differently, needing to to have a kind of a different approach to something they're doing. Some people are much less good at it, and they basically need that little prompt from someone or an opportunity to have an outlet for whatever's stressing and bothering them, and you can provide that. You can provide that for your leadership, and you need to encourage your team to provide it for you. Not all of them necessarily. You'll have some people who are more trusted individuals than others, and those are the ones you want to lean on to turn around and say, okay, you can help me with this. If you see this sort of thing going on, then my door's open. Come and talk to me about it. If you think for some reason I'm not in the right space today, I mean, I expect a full and frank and open conversation in private. Don't want it done in public. But you want people to feel that they have the opportunity to to share with you when they think that stuff is not quite as it should be. So I think this whole issue is really, really important for you individually to think about your own personal motivation for life and work and everything that you do, and also for the teams that you work in and that work for you. Do really pay attention to what are the things that are going to flick people's switches? What is going to actually get them to really deliver of their best? And that won't be the same for everybody. And you're being inclusive with this and trying to make sure that you're finding activities and opportunities and tasks that, as far as you possibly can, work for absolutely everybody in your organization. That's really important. That's a good leadership trait if you can do that. If you can turn around and make sure that people feel that you individually care about them and you're actually individually aware and sympathetic and supportive to them, then they will perform much, much better for you as well. And you yourself need to be drinking your own Kool-Aid. You need to absolutely be looking at what does this for you, and when you're not feeling at your best, how do you get yourself back to your best? What is going to work to to drive you back to a good space? If you need a holiday, take a holiday. Once in my life, for sure, I found myself in a position where I knew I was approaching being properly burned out. I was in a busy command job. I was running a squadron. I had recently split up from my first wife. That was undoubtedly causing me more stress than I'd actually anticipated. And I recognize in hindsight, it caused me a lot more stress than I actually anticipated it would. And I therefore was in a position where I knew I needed a break. I really did need a break. And the net result of that was I went on holiday, and I went to unnamed accommodation, ultimately in Mallorca, just to go and lie by a pool and sleep for a week. And that's essentially what I did. I slept for the vast majority of a week just to recover and get myself back and get my mojo back. And it made a huge difference, huge difference. I came back from that completely rejuvenated, really, in terms of of energy level and enthusiasm and ready to get on and deliver. Just because I'd got myself in a position where I was properly chronically tired, and the only way I could recover from that was real rest. So it is back to that. How good are you at recognizing it in yourself? If you're good at recognizing it in yourself, that's terrific. If you're not, make sure you create the conditions that people feel they can come and talk to you about it. I have worked for leaders who absolutely would not tolerate that. They would not be in a position where you would ever feel comfortable going and telling them anything about like that they were definitely superior to you, and that they were not about to be told by you anything about what their performance was, etc., etc. Don't be that kind of leader. Try and be the sort of leader that actually is absolutely encouraging people to be open, honest, upfront with you, and helpful. I hope that has helped a little bit in terms of providing you with some thoughts and ideas and just some little prompts around the motivation point. I think all of us over time go through highs and lows. That's just human nature. It's impossible not to do that. No matter how optimistic, enthusiastic, bubbly, capable you are going to have times when you are disappointed, upset, feel you've failed in some way, feel you're not at your best. Sometimes that's associated with health. Sometimes it's associated with other things in life. And just think about, how do I identify those points? How do I turn around and recognize when I'm not my best and I need to do something? How do I recognize when I'm actually really performing at my best, and what have I done to get myself there? So you can do those things, so you make it more repeatable. And not everyone's like you. Just remember that when you're dealing with your team. Some people will be motivated by very different things and need different stimulation, different approaches to turn around and get them to where they need to be. So trying hard to think about that and cover all those various angles is where I'd thoroughly recommend that you get to with this. I hope that's helpful. As ever, feedback always welcome. As I say, probably with a bit of luck, returning to some guests very soon. As soon as I get my life back in order with a computer that actually is making it easy to do that. And we'll speak soon. Take care. All the best. Bye now.